All right, good morning, everybody. I say morning because I am up at Whistler and I'm about to do my pre-ski prep workout, which includes decompressing tension in the muscles, but also bringing stability. So this is great for skiers, hikers, runners, tennis players, anyone that lives on 2 feet. Before you go out and do an activity, I suggest you release tension and then bring stability and make sure the right muscles that are going to support and stabilize you are active. All right, so just going to sit in a little V stance here, and I'm just going to start to move my torso as I go. And while my spine is long and I'm rotating through my upper body, I'm also getting this internal and external rotation at my hips. Now I'm going to start to incorporate the arm and lift and open, and then come back. And nice breath in, lift and open, and come back. And one more time here to lift, really reach the hips forward and come back down. Good. And then switch sides. So just opening up through the hips, getting the stability through the pelvis, and I just start to turn and move. Good. It's a nice wake up class as well. So even if you're headed to the office, getting the kids ready for school, this is just good always. And finding the breath. So I'm going to start to take it a little further with my arm, opening my hips, easy breath, getting the oxygen and blood flow flowing. Good. And all the way up and reach. And one more time. And take it out all the way up and reach and come back. Good. All right, so I'm going to come onto my hands and knees. And I'm just going to stretch forward. If you don't have a roller with you, you can always just stretch forward and round up. Just nice, lightly slide your hands out. So lots of options. And just starting to get the movement through the spine. Movement through your spine is so important because that's what brings blood flow from tip to tail and tail to tip as you breathe and expand your ribs. And just one more time, up and reach out. Good. So now I'm going to come into a pigeon stance. Now I'll give you an option if this doesn't feel very good for your knees. To some people, if the knees don't like this amount of compression, what I would suggest is that you lie on your back, cross a foot over, and bring your leg up and do the stretch this way. So a little less pressure on the knee. So listen to your body. Don't do anything that hurts. All that's going to happen if you do that, just being with your breath here, is your body's going to start to tense up and go into sort of that survival flight and fight mode. And then everything just constricts. Your breath constricts. So how do you know if you should do something? Is your breath flowing? Does the movement have this sense of ease, even though there's work behind it? Good. And just finding that range that feels good for you. One more time with the breath up. So one of my goals, while I'm going to be targeting strengthening of my lower body and activation of my mid-back, is that I want to get movement through my spine in all directions. And gosh, it's always an interesting observation when we can compare sides for how one feels over the other. We do use the two sides of our bodies differently. And the majority of sports, not so much skiing, but the majority of sports are single-sided, right? The golf swing, you're either right-handed or left-handed. You're either holding your racket in your right hand or your left hand. So overall, sports are more one-sided, but we always want to bring balance and restore balance as best we can. And then coming up. Great, that felt good. Okay, so now I'm going to take my roller and do a little bit of seated compression. So I want to make sure that everything is nice and supple in my hips and my glutes and in my legs. And then again, once I've done the release, I do the activation. And so just rolling forward and back, nice straight spine. And again, just allowing your breath to flow. And then finish with your sits bones on the feet side of the roller, bringing your hands back. You're a little bit tucked, engaged through the core. The majority of my weight is my pelvis on the roller. Tip the knees to one side, swirl around, bringing some hydration into the pelvis and into the low back. And then switch to the other side and swirl around there. Nice easy breath. Good. And up. Good. I'm just going to move forward a little bit. I'm on a bit of a weird carpet that seems to move, but that's okay. And now I'm going to go into my deep hips. I'm going to let this hip open. Place my hand here and go. And I want to make sure I'm really warmed up through my feet and my calves as well. I'm super excited. I've gotten some new ski equipment this year. I put it off, and now I've done it, and I went and got my boots thermal molded yesterday, and so I'm super excited to have comfy feet and feel strong. So I'm going to stop here, and I'm just going to fan this hip open and close. Good. Notice I'm nice and lifted through my spine, relax through the shoulder, and then wait. Take a breath in. And exhale. I'm going to straighten this leg out, tip over onto my side, and now go into my side hip. So here I'm around sort of the glute min, glute med, piriformis area. So, you know, anytime you find you have achy hips, tight hips, clicky hips, we want to start to work all through this whole inner hip, outer hip, pelvic area. And then I'm going to stop, and today I'm going to do a little cross friction. That feels too deep, you can always rock your pelvis forward and back, but here I just want to pin that tissue and get right in there. That feels great. And then wait, take a breath in and exhale, and then coming up. So then we go to the other side. So I'm going to let this hip fall out, place my hand on my knee. Notice I'm a little more upright when I'm in my deep hip. I'm bumping up close to my greater trochanter. That's that sort of big hip bone, they say. And just getting into those deep 6 external hip stabilizers, which are really important anytime we're loaded on the legs. And then I'm going to stop and fan my hip open and close. And I'm going to have my back to you, but that's okay because it gives you another view. We're going to wait, take a breath in, and exhale. I'm going to straighten my leg out, come onto my side, because this gives you that view just to show you that I really am on my side hip. I'm not on my waist and I'm not on my thigh. But I am going to explore. I'm going to be at the higher part of my pelvis. I'm going to tip forward a little bit. I'm going to tip back. So remember, when we're gliding, we're looking for pain that we don't even know that we have yet. So when you find something that's tender, you're going to focus the glide just in that area for a couple of breaths. And then we stop, and then we go into the shear. This is your cross friction option where you're pinning the skin and moving the tissue underneath, or alternatively, you can roll forward and back, and you can shear that way. Lovely. And then I'm going to bend my knees and come all the way up. I'm going to go into some hamstring work now, or quads, front and side. And so I've got the roller just above my knee. Now what's important here is the position of the torso, from the head to the shoulders to the ribs to the pelvis. So I'm nice and solid. I'm getting into some planking mode. Notice that my pelvis is in line with my ribs. I'm not sinking down here or collapsed in the upper body. You really want to push through the forearms, bring the pelvis so the pelvis feels weightless, and draw your belly button towards your spine. So there's absolutely no stress on my neck, my shoulders, or low back. I'm using my forearms, my arms, and my feet to move me. Now tilt your heels over to one side. We have so much stuck stress in our quads, and skiing is really so very quad dominant. And tip to the other side. So doing some release before and getting some hydration in there before we start to really demand a lot of them, and then we rock side to side is going to help so that you don't fatigue quite as quickly. We call it a flash pump in skiing. Sometimes we might hit some powder in our first run, and the quads just start to burn, and that's sort of this flash pump, and I don't like the way that feels. So I'm going to see if this avoids that. And now I'm just mid-thigh. So again, I'm exploring. I tip over to one side. There's just so many muscles, and big, strong, powerful muscles in through the front of the hip and the thighs. And so I'm going to just really massage them all here. And then we go side to side. And if it feels like you're rolling over little Twizzlers, then you know you've got some stuck stress in the quads. And this is something you want to pay attention to every day. So, you know, when we feel tenderness, when it feels ropey, it's not feeling supple, then that's a sign that you know that that's an area that you likely want to be focusing on with your daily self-care practice. We all have one, right? Yes, perfect. That's why we're here. Love it. All right, so now I've explored, found a spot I want to work on, and then I'm just going to go side to side. This is a very good one. Great. And then I'm going to come onto my knees and I'm going to stretch back. So while I'm here, I'm just going to do a little rib cage expansion. So when you're skiing, you want to keep your upper body pointed downhill and your lower body moves. So having some motion in the ribs independent of the pelvis is really important. So I've angled my roller. The left side is down, the right side is up. And I'm going to sit back on my heels, take my right arm up. And what I want to do is keep my chest square to the front and I bring my arm across. So I'm not rotating, I'm taking my arm across my body. I'm going to use this hand, place it on the ground, and I'm just going to lengthen forward. Now, here's the piece, is that I've got my collarbone square to the ground. I'm keeping my shoulders parallel as well so that I'm not rotated. And I'm going to use my left hand and push my ribs to the right. So I'm doing this sort of flare of my ribs, which is oh so good. So I'm pressing through my left hand to push my right ribs over to the right as I lengthen forward. And I'm going to take a big breath and focus on moving the ribs on my right side and exhale. And sink into that. And then come up and then switch to the other side. I'm keeping everything square to the front. Arm comes up. I take it across without turning my body. I want to bring my arm across because I'm creating space on the left side. I put my right hand down. I come forward without rotating my body. And then I use my right hand. It's like I'm trying to push the floor off to the right. And then it shifts my ribs to the left and it opens them like an accordion. And breathe into that space. And exhale. Lovely. That feels really good. And then coming up. All right. So I'm going a little bit back and forth with upper body and lower body, and that's okay because I'm really just warming everything up, and I like flow. And so if I'm in a position where I can add something, and I will. So now we're going to do some inner thigh glide and shear. So I'm going to take my roller more lined up with my torso and bring it straight out in front. And then I'm going to bring the lower part of the roller towards me. I'm going to bring my whole knee. Notice my foot is on as well. And then I'm going to straighten the leg out so that my toe, you can see all that. I'm in a cute little Airbnb, but it's the little part. Good. And now the roller lands just above my knee. So my toe is down, even if you can't see it. And I'm using this hand so that is what's actually driving the motion. I'm using this arm. So notice that my shoulders, ribs, and pelvis are all moving in equal timing. Now what I'm focusing on here with my inner thigh, I'm just above my knee, is that I want to keep the pressure of my leg against the roller consistent as I go forward and as I come back. If you don't feel any tenderness, tip your toe and knee down, find a good spot, and then you're going to stop, flex your foot, and you can choose to either bend and straighten your knee for your shear, or you can lower and lift your heel. Good. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. And then move the roller to mid-inner thigh. Hand goes down. This map that we're doing, even though I'm prepping for a ski day, and as I mentioned, anything that you're doing that involves lower body, this is a great map. But this is also a really good one for knee pain, even though I'm adding the upper body in there. All the lower body such and things I'm doing is fantastic if you have hip or knee issues. Flex your foot. You can either bend and straighten the knee, or you can lift and lower the heel. Awesome. And then you wait. Take a breath in. Notice we get in and we get out. because the healing happens after. Now, to get right up in the groin, what I like to do is come up onto my forearm, and notice I'm walking my forearm away. I want my hip or the roller at right angles to my hip. So think of the T crossing, so that if the fibers run one way, the roller is meeting them in that cross fiber position. So again, I'm propped up on my back knee. My pelvis is lined up with my ribs. That's really important. And your head is part of your spine. So I'm pushing through the forearm. I'm using my mid-back, using my abdominals to support and stabilize me while I work on my deep inner hip. Oh, that feels good. All right, so then be mindful of your shoulder. Come down to your side, hold the roller, and you're just going to do your cross friction, where again you're spinning, pinning the skin and moving the tissue underneath it. And then you wait. Take a breath in and exhale. Good. So while I'm here on this side, because I like flow, I'm going to get a little outer hip activation. So we're going to go into what we call the clam. Now, I've got my heels touching. I've got my bottom arm. My shoulder is reaching out so that I'm not compressing the shoulder. And then I'm going to take this arm in front. Now, with my pelvis, I want to tilt, which means I'm taking my tailbone back. No, hard to see with the black on the screen there. And then I want to stack. So I want to take this top hip and make sure it's stacked over the bottom. And notice that lifts my waist a little bit, but I'm still on my ribs. And then when I roll, I'm tipping slightly forward, so this knee is lined up with the bottom knee. And then keeping the heels together, keeping your pelvis still, you're just going to lift from the hip and you're going to pause there. Now I want you to press into this arm a little bit and then lighten the lower leg so that we can override your brain's tendency to over-recruit and simply activate our hip rotators. And then we come back down. Always check your tilt, tailbone back, your stack, and your roll, hip slightly forward. And then as this leg lifts, think of reaching this knee forward as it comes up. And the idea is your pelvis stays perfectly still. Take a breath in and then come back down. And again, check your tilt, stack, and roll. The position is really important because if you're not in the right position, you might end up activating your quadratus lumborum or your obliques. Fine if that's your intention, but that is not our intention for this exercise, is to activate the stabilizers of our external hip rotators. And that's really important because ultimately when you're skiing, you are standing on one leg, right? So when you're using your edges, but you've got your weight on one ski and then you're shifting to the other. So the stability of your side hip is really important. So reaching the knee forward, keeping this arm reaching forward, and come back down. And every time before I lift, I check my tilt, stack, and roll, and reach the knee forward as you bring it up. And if you've got a little quiver going on, then you know that you are in the right neurological pathways for this. And then one more time, take it up. Good. And now just come halfway down and lift and lift. Stay nice and light on the bottom leg, reaching the arm forward, keeping your pelvis stable in the tilt, stack, and roll position, and using your breath and lift and lift. Nice. And then bring it all the way down. Good. Give that a little tap, shake it out, relax the muscles with the curvation here. And then let's head over to the other side. Perfect. All right. So here we go. We're going to do our inner thigh glide and shear first on this side. So we've got our roller that's more lined up from the torso. You're going to extend it out. You're going to tilt the bottom of the roller towards you. Bring the top leg on top, including your foot. And then when you straighten it out, your toe is down and you land just above your knee. Take your top hand, place it on your mat, and that is what's driving the action. So your whole torso is moving in equal timing. You're using your arm to drive it. And the consistency of the pressure of your inner thigh just above your knee against the roller in both directions. So we want to have the same pressure this way as we do this way. And then we're going to stop, flex your foot, bend and straighten your knee, or you can lift and lower your heel. I actually like this one. If it's too deep, then do the other one. But I like any chance I can get some movement in my hip. I want to take it. And then you wait. Take a breath in and exhale. Good. Now move the roller to mid-inner thigh. The leg is lengthened out. Again, you're going to use this top hand to move your body forward and back. Whole torso moves together, and the consistency of the pressure, notice I'm saying consistency, not amount. So you don't have to really be like digging in there. Just have that consistency, because ultimately what we're doing is working with your nervous system. This is a neurological movement where your brain controls muscle, your muscle moves bone. And so we're working with the neuro where your brain is commanding certain things of the muscle. You're going to flex your foot, and you can either bend and straighten the knee or lift and lower the heel. And again, notice we like to get in and get out. 3 breaths of something is perfect. And then you wait, take a focused breath in, always expanding our ribs, activating the diaphragm, and increasing fluid flow. Now to come into the deep inner thigh, I come up onto my forearms. I want to get that T angle here. My hips are up. I'm propped up on my other knee. Notice my pelvis and ribs are aligned, and my head is in line with my spine. So I've got some nice planking in the upper body, activation of the abdominals. Good, and we go, get right in there, right into the deep hip. As you come down for the shear, just be mindful of your shoulder. Head comes down, hand goes on the roller, and you're just going to take that leg up and down. And then you wait. Take a focused breath in and exhale. Good. All right, so now we can take the roller. We can use it as a just a head support. We want to bring your heels are lined up with your sits bones. So my hip and knee are at about a 45-degree angle. I'm going to place my hand and get my shoulder out of the way first, and then reach my hand forward. I want my heels together, and the pelvis comes into this, what we call tilt, tailbone back, stack, this side of the hip stacked over the bottom, and roll, tip slightly forward. So there's a sense of energy of this knee going forward. From here, as I come up, I reach my knee forward, pardon me. I keep my heels together, and what's important is your pelvis stays still so that you're really working the deep external hip rotators here. If I let my hip come back, then I'm actually moving in my torso, and I'm not working in the deep hip. So we want to get that differentiation, and so that position of the tilt, stack, and roll, this arm reaching forward, gently pressing into the hand, and then as you're lifting, we want to check that we're not using other compensatory patterns, such as pushing into this bottom leg. We want to keep that leg nice and light. So I'm energizing my knee forward as I lift, staying light in the bottom leg. Take a breath in and out. And that little quiver, if you can find that, says that you are in the right neurological pathway that we're looking for here. So don't be scared of the quiver. Go to it, meet it, be in it, and know that you're doing a great job. And then we come down. Every time we move, we check our tilt, stack, and roll. Energize the knee forward and lift. And we'll do one more time in the full range, going all the way up, reaching forward as you lift, and then halfway down, and we just lift. Keeping that position of the pelvis. Notice every time I cue you, I'm cueing me, and making those little tweaks, little tweaks, little tweaks. The moving slow shows the control and the precision, and it gives you an opportunity to notice if you need to tweak anything as you go. And I'll just do one more, and then bring it back down. Fantastic. Okay, so now we need to get the glutes and hamstrings engaged here. So I'm going to face the other way just because of my space. And when I do the back of thigh shear, I like to have my feet off the mat. So I'm lying down on my back. I've got the roller and upper hamstring. And I'm just going to open my hips, turn them out, and turn them in. So this is really great. Gosh, if you have any tension in the pelvis, the hips, the low back, the back of thigh shear is just a beautiful motion to hydrate, and to mobilize the hips. And then I wait, take a breath in and exhale. And then I go down mid hamstring. And I go out and in. Good. And just keeping the breath flowing. Greatest gift we have is our ability to breathe. Good. And then I wait, take a breath in, and then down. I could spend an hour doing a pre-ski melt mat, but you don't have to. I'm hitting some of the main areas. I'll probably do more because I'm up here for a few days and give you some variety of things you can do, and then you can pick the ones that are your favorite. Or remember, the body likes change. It likes novelty. So doing different ones all the time. And take a breath in and exhale. And then I just want to do my calves because the calves and the feet work really hard when you're skiing. But I'm just going to do both together. So what's important here is that the feet are relaxed. I placed the roller just at the belly of my calf, the thickest part of my calf. And I'm just going to turn my hips out and then just do a little on the outer calf. And then I'm going to turn my hips in. I can also tip my knees and feet to one way, so I'm getting the outer of my left and the inner of my right. And then I can tip the other way. And again, just like in the other glides, the consistency of the pressure against the roller is most important. And then just checking that your feet stay relaxed, because if you're pretty tender there, you might find your feet kind of doing this, but relax them so that the roller can get into the tissue. Good. And then you're just going to stop and you can circle your ankles or you can roll side to side. Now, if it feels super ropey, then stick with the circle. And then you wait, take a breath in and exhale. Good. So now we're going to bring the roller and place it behind your pelvis. Matt's crumpling up again. There we go. Perfect. All right. And I'm going to bring my pelvis up. And I just want to do a little differentiation motion again between my pelvis and ribs. So here I have the roller right under my sacrum. It's not under my low back and it's not on my tailbone. I'm going to put my hands on my ribs this morning, and as I gently tuck and tilt my pelvis, there's a couple things I pay attention to. One is that I'm staying relaxed in my glutes and light in my feet. So I'm really just using the muscles of my pelvis, mind you, meaning my abdominals, to move the pelvis. But what I also want to check for is that my ribs are staying still, that I'm moving my pelvis in this tuck and this tilt without moving my ribs. So this is really helpful again for skiing, that I want to be able to keep my upper body facing downhill and move my lower body through the turns. So if you're all locked up in here, that's going to be tricky. So let's make sure we're not. Bring your hands by the roller. You're going to bring your legs up. Notice my thighs are a little bit angled towards me. And now I've just got my hands in close to my hips. So I'm literally just rocking to 11 o'clock and 1 o'clock in my SI joint shear. And then I'm going to stop to one side and I'm going to circle nice and slow in this hip. And then I wait, take a breath in and exhale, come back to center. And then I'm going to tip the other way and I'm going to circle there. We always move slowly. It doesn't mean you get it done quicker when you move quickly. Everything is still about 3 breaths. I'm going to wait, take a breath, and exhale, and come back to center. I'm going to go into my bent knee press. I'm placing this foot down, making sure my knee is lined up from my hip, and I can press into my big toe a little bit just to stop my knee from drifting off. The focus is getting some tensional pull in this hip and thigh. And I'm going to do that by taking a breath in. As I exhale, relax my shoulders. I'm going to tuck my pelvis. And this leg coming in is really just helping to exaggerate the tuck. The focus is reaching this knee over the toe. So you're feeling some opening through your hip. You're going to take a breath in and exhale. I'm going to switch to the other side. I'm going to place my foot down, press into my big toe. Check my pelvis is aligned. Check this knee is lined up from the center of my hip. Relax my shoulders. Take a breath in. Exhale, tuck the pelvis so it means my pubic bone's coming to my belly button. And I'm thinking about this knee coming to my nose and this knee reaching to my toes. Really focusing on getting this lengthening in through this hip and thigh. I'm going to wait, take a focused breath in, and exhale. Good. And then I'm going to come back to center. I'm going to move the roller out from underneath, get it right out of the way. And I'm just going to massage my spine here, holding onto my thighs. Chin is tucked in. I'm in this nice deep scoop, and I'm just rolling up and down and up and down. Getting that nice massage, increasing blood flow through my spine. And then I'm going to roll down into position. I want to get a little core activation. So I'm in a chest lift. I'm using my upper abdominals to press my lower ribs down. I'm going to take my hands behind my head, let my head be supported, using that focus of your abdominals helping to be in the chest lift. And I'm going to exhale, reach. Exhale, reach. Shoulders are down. The chest lift is coming from my upper abdominals, pressing the lower ribs down. And my head is just following that shape, so I don't have the tension. Now I'm going to rotate my upper body, come back to center, and rotate. I'm keeping my pelvis anchored. So as I rotate to the left, I'm reaching my right hip down, anchoring it, and anchoring the left hip. And exhale. Notice it's not my elbows doing the work here. My upper body, my sternum is rotating, and then center. My whole upper body is holding the shape. And center, one more each side, and reach, and center, and reach, and center. One more exercise here, and then we'll be done. Place the feet down, arms long by your side, breath in, exhale. We go into our scoop, squeeze of the glutes, roll of the spine, reaching the knees over the toes. Narrow your knee ankle so you can really get that squeeze of your glutes. Notice I'm soft and relaxed through here. Breath in and exhale to roll back down. Inhale. Exhale. Scoop. Find your core. There's your tuck. Squeeze your glutes. Reach your knees over your toes. Good. So one last chance here to get the spine nice and awake and mobilized so that you're headed into your sport or activity, even if it's a desk jockey for today, that you're not starting with a stiff back. And roll back down. And one more time to roll up and to roll back down. Good. Bring your legs in. Just give your feet a little circle in the ankles and then the other way. Good. And then hands behind the legs, rock and roll to get up. Good. And one more on the next one. We're going to hold it up. Hold it all the way up and stay. Good. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great day, that you found this helpful. And now I'm going to go hit the slopes. Thanks, everybody.